Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's second video. So we're going to have a look at the weather next week, 10 days for today's second video. It's going to take us around 26th of February. So we're getting towards the end of February now with these updates. We did JMO Friday earlier on today, and that sort of goes through the whole of next month. So it takes us to the middle part of March. A lot of cold signals within the long range output, the CFS and the JMA seasonal models. They are both predicting the chance of some really cold weather actually through the latter part of February and on into March. That video is here on the homepage. Just scroll down page a little bit and you'll find it above the snow desk. So I said this video is going to focus on next week's 10 days and a little bit at odds with what the longer range stuff is doing, because we are having a huge amount of uncertainty now about next week's weather. I talked about this in a video yesterday, tried to make sense of it, and we're still trying to make sense of it today. So we've got the GFS and its ensembles, which backing away at a very rapid pace from the chance of cold east winds next week. But the ECMWF and its ensembles are really ramping up the chance of cold, maybe even very cold weather before this February is done. So it's a case again, as we've had a few times this winter, of GFS and the ECMWF let battle commence, and overall I think the GFS has come out a little bit ahead actually than the ECM this winter, which is quite unusual because we do rate ECM as the better of the two models overall. But it's been one of those funny old winters, and it's going to continue right up to the very end, I think, keeping us guessing about what's going to happen. So, begin by having a look at the Arctic Oscillation, North Atlantic Oscillation. I'm not going to include the stratospheric stuff in today's video because we talked about it a lot recently. There's not really been any change over the past 24 hours. The significant warming of the stratosphere over the North Pole continues and will probably intensify over this weekend. So, I suspect we'll look at that again on Sunday for the GFS Sunday roundup. We're going to start off by having a look at the Arctic Oscillation observed and forecast chart. So the black line here tells where we've been with the Arctic Oscillation. The red line's at the end where the GFS ensembles forecasting the Arctic Oscillation to go. Now remember, it's just an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere. It's not driving anything, it just tells you what the atmosphere is doing. When the Arctic Oscillation is positive, you've got low pressure over the pole, and consequently you tend to keep the cold air bottled up. When you've got a negative Arctic Oscillation, you've got high pressure over the pole, you've got blocking. And that's the route to getting cold air out of the pole down into the mid-latitudes. True cold Arctic air, and tends to be locked in for several days and weeks as well. So it's kind of tied in with the stratospheric warming, because when you get a warming of the stratosphere a few days or weeks further on, you tend to get blocking setting up over the Arctic. Now, this is where we are right now with the Arctic Oscillation. The black line is just there. So we are in pretty strongly positive territory. We're going to go down close to neutral in the next few days. Then next week, now you see that the GFS ensembles are wanting to lift the Arctic Oscillation back up to positive territory. And then as we go towards the final week of February into March, which is this period just here, we see kind of like a 50-50 split, I suppose, between the ensemble members that are keeping things positive with the Arctic Oscillation and these ensemble members down here that are turning things negative. Now, the only thing I'll say about this is that this is a big pullback on what we were seeing yesterday and the day before, when nearly all members of the GFS ensembles were going for a negative Arctic Oscillation through the last week of February, going for blocking through the last week of February and into March. Now it's much, much less clear-cut. Whilst there are several ensemble members that are still going into negative, even maybe plunging off the cliff negative with the Arctic Oscillation, it's nowhere near as strong a signal in the GFS ensembles as we had yesterday. And it's the same story for the North Atlantic Oscillation. So again, the black line here tells us where we've been with the NAO. Red line's at the end where the GFS ensembles forecasting the NAO to go. Now remember, yesterday and the day before, most of these red lines were going negative. Not as negative as the Arctic Oscillation, but they was nearly all going into negative NAO territory for the final week of February and into the start of March. And we do still have a few ensemble members that are going down into negative territory by the end of February and start of March. But again, you'll see it's nowhere near as clear a cut signal as we had yesterday, with actually, I think, the bulk of the GFS ensembles keeping the NAO positive through the final week of February and into March. So this is telling us that the GFS and its ensembles really pulling back from blocking, pulling back from a negative NAO, which is where you get high pressure around Iceland and low pressure through the Azores, and just pulling back from the cold signal quite a lot at the moment. These are the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts for the next 7 to 10 days from the Penn State University website. We've got the ECMWF here on the top. GFS, have a look at it in a moment. It's on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the absolute high pressure, low pressure, being drowned by a jet stream running above. Red extrapolates high pressure, blue to low pressure. This is the ECMWF, and look at this. It's got a big blocking feature to our north and northeast, a strong area of high pressure from Scandinavia there over to Greenland there. That is tremendously blocked and would be really cold as well. This trough of low pressure below average heights down to our southwest. So the upshot is that we'll be feeding in the wind. If it's right, we'll be feeding in the wind from the east. I'm going to show you the ECMWF operational run shortly, and it is very impressive to say the least. So that's the ECMWF 7 to 10 day height anomaly. Look at the GFS, and it couldn't get any more different. We've got below average heights there to our north, where the ECM is placing all that blocking. We're raising heights to our south around France and Spain. And the blocking signal, that's pushed right back there. There is a little bit of a blocking signal right over top of the pole, but certainly nowhere close enough to do much for us. And so we bring the jet stream through across the Atlantic like that in the 7 to 10 day time frame, and that would be really very mild, maybe a touch of spring in the air. So the difference between the two is like depths of winter or a touch of spring, and this is quite unusual to see such stark differences, and you'll see that the differences begin from around as early as Monday and Tuesday next week, just a few days away. This is very unusual what's going on here. The only thing that I can put it down to, again, is this warming of the stratosphere. I've spoken about it before. The models are trying to piece everything back together, because what the stratospheric warming is doing, it's almost like throwing a bomb to the atmospheric system and blowing everything apart, and then the models are trying to put it all back together. It will get put back together differently compared to how it was before the warming, but they're trying to work out how it all fits back together, put the jigsaw back in place, and they are very struggling to be able to do that. If you remember, a lot of you probably weren't watching the videos back in the start of 2013 when we had the sudden stratospheric warming in the first week of January 2013. But back then we had a lot of this going on again, had a lot of this uncertainty, and it went on really through much of the winter. And I think that explains, at least partly anyway, why we are having such differences between the model output at the moment. So that's the GFS ensembles for these are the GFS ensembles for the next 2 weeks. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average. Looking at Daventry in Northamptonshire today. So we're starting off close to average with the temperature. We're actually going to go quite mild over the weekend into the start of next week. Now, this is the period that we've got all the uncertainty within the model output. So it's from around, say, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. So it's around there to there. And we can see that what the GFS ensembles now are doing, and you'll not be surprised from what we just looked at with the Arctic North Atlantic oscillations, GFS ensembles generally now keeping things on the milder than average side. So this white line, that's the ensemble mean. That takes every single individual line of spaghetti, if you like, and produces a mean line. And you remember a couple of days ago, that white line was trending around here in that sort of area, significantly below the red line. Now the white line, the ensemble mean, is significantly, or not significantly above the red line, but it is above the red line. So the GFS ensembles, and this has really happened just within the last 2 or 3 model runs, the GFS ensembles now are trending pretty much from there to the end above average. The only thing you can say is that there are still a few cold outliers, and some of them are quite impressively cold as well. Excuse me, but they are very much now in the minority. Remember, when we looked at these ensemble charts yesterday and the day before, we had many ensemble members going down to -10 to -15 at 850 HPA. Now there's only kind of like 2, 3 or 4 of them. So a huge shift has taken place within the GFS model and its ensembles onto the milder side through next week and running on into the end of February. Quite a dramatic switch around there compared to what we've seen a few days ago. These are the surface temperatures for Daventry, and you'll see that overall keeping things quite mild. There is a little bit of a dip taking place there. That's the early part of next week, but overall keeping temperatures with most of these ensemble members in the mild category. That's 10 degrees Celsius there. Some of them are actually going into spring-like type temperatures, going up to around 13 or 14 degrees. They are milder outliers, but you'll see that there are a few there that are going into spring-like temperatures. Several are still going for frosty nights as well. So the difference between the coldest and mildest ensemble members is very stark. In terms of precipitation, perhaps not quite the dry signal that we had a few days ago, but by no means are we looking at a wet spell. That's one thing we can agree on, I think, through to the end of February. There shouldn't be too much in the way of precipitation. That's how temperature anomalies are looking from the 16th to 24th of February. A little bit milder than average. This is how precipitation anomalies, remember, this is all based on the GFS. This is how the precipitation anomalies are looking. And that's coming out from the 16th to 24th February, a little bit drier than average. If we was to base that temperature anomaly on the ECMWF, that would be significantly colder. But this temperature anomaly is being based on the GFS, which is shifting much milder. Hope you're able to follow this. It's all very, very complicated. So this is how things are looking with the GFS on Monday. We've got a ridge of high pressure down to our southwest, trying to push northwards. We are trying to raise heights to our northeast as well. We have got a bit of a high pressure in over Scandinavia. That's trying to get itself going. And we go up to Tuesday and Wednesday, and this is what the difference is between model output. So we don't get this ridge just here and push it northwards. We just keep the ridge centred around the UK, which allows the jet stream to continue to roll in over the top of that ridge and keeps us in a relatively mild Atlantic flow. The ridge continues through into the second half of next week. Notice we intensify low pressure around Greenland and Iceland, which is a little bit surprising given the sudden stratospheric warming that we've got going on in that sort of area at the moment. But it is seeing intensification of the polar vortex around Greenland at the end of next week, and that doesn't help us to get this high pressure to Scandinavia either. So if you go into the final weekend of February, 24th, 25th February, instead of pulling in a bitterly cold easterly wind and having heavy snow, we're actually got a taste of spring going on here, because the high pressure now is centering around Greenland, centering around Germany, I should say. And we keep all this purple and pink going around Greenland, so that's the polar vortex still churning away. And between the two, we're starting to drag up some quite warm, quite balmy southerly winds, and the winds are originating from sort of Spain and North Africa, that sort of area. So you wouldn't be at all surprised with that if temperatures were to lift up to around 13 or 14 degrees Celsius. Would be a little bit of spring in the air. And that's how we go to day 10, which is Monday the 26th February, still looking very mild. Only difference is that it's turning a little bit more unsettled up to the north and west of Scotland. This is the ECMWF. We know from the height anomaly flowchart this is going to be a lot colder. So begin on Monday, actually very, very similar between the two models. Let's go back to Monday with the GFS. So that's Monday's chart. And compare it to Monday's ECM chart, and they are both very similar. So they are starting off at a similar point. But the difference happens on Tuesday when we reach a high pressure very easily to Scandinavia. So that's how the ECMWF looks on Tuesday. That's how the GFS looks on Tuesday. It's a bit of a ridge over Scandinavia, but a lot weaker compared to the ECMWF. So even as early as Tuesday, we've got differences between the model output, and the ECM is placing us in a light, slack easterly wind. And then look what happens through the middle second half of next week. We properly intensify that high pressure over Scandinavia. We turn the winds into the east, so we are within, particularly England and Wales, within a cold easterly wind by Thursday next week. And then this just continues into Friday. So in a week's time, the ECMWF has a 1,040 millibar area of high pressure over Scandinavia. We're pulling the wind in from Russia, and there'd be snow showers coming in with that easy wind as well. And then it all actually starts getting quite severe for this final weekend of February. This is Saturday 24th. This is Sunday 25th. The bitterly cold easy winds continue. By this point, we're talking about temperatures staying below freezing all day. At the same point, the GFS has us in a spring-like southerly wind. Temperatures here will be below freezing all day. Pressure is weakening, so there will be probably longer spells of persistent snow pushing in with those easterly winds. Look at the upper air temperatures. The -10 isotherm is through the country. We're actually getting the isotherm down to -15 just off the coast of East Anglia. That's very, very cold air indeed. So you're definitely talking about ice days there, temperatures staying below freezing all day. And you're talking about heavy snow coming in as well. And it carries on to day 10. This is day 10, Monday, 26th of February, where this low pressure's trying to come in from off the Atlantic, but it would be producing heavy snow across Ireland and southwest England. And generally, we remain in those bitterly cold easterly winds. So real differences between those two models. This is the ensemble mean chart for the GFS for a week's time, Friday 23rd of February. Notice that we are looking mild here with this ensemble mean. So every individual member of GFS ensembles is producing one chart to represent all those ensemble members, if you like. And that's how we looking very mild, with wind coming up from the south or from the southwest too. Compare that to the ECMWF. There is an ensemble sweep for the ECMWF, and that's how it looks for Friday. Places us in that cold easterly wind, has a high pressure dominating over Scandinavia. And that's just a week away. Differences are tremendous between those two models. These are the ECMWF ensemble, or this is the ECMWF ensemble graph for De Bilt in Holland, and you'll see it's firmly going into the freezer. So we're starting up there, the temperatures, that's 10 Celsius there, that's 5 Celsius, that's freezing, and that's -5. Temperatures starting off quite mild, but through next week, a very rapid decline in temperatures taking place. And so by the second half of next week, we're talking about sort of daytime temperature staying below freezing all day, and several ensemble members are going below -5, some of them getting down to -10 at night. So again, just really cold weather being predicted by the ECMWF and its ensembles, in complete contrast to what the GFS is going for. And this is one of the oddest sort of situations that I've seen, actually, as I've been observing model output for a very long time now. Been observing models since around 2000, and very rare to see such an extreme difference between two models from as early as just a few days away. So I think we're going to have to get there before too much longer. We will come down on one side or another. Will the ECMWF back down and shift to the GFS? Or will the GFS and its ensembles do one final flip and go cold? I think it will all be revealed within the next 24 or so hours. This can't carry on much longer. So what might happen is that we cancel the cold weather for next week, we delay it, but we may still get it the following week. It's possible that even if the ECM drops its very cold ideas for next week, we may go off and running again with these models to try and put us into a very cold spell for the following week. I wouldn't totally rule that out, that we may delay it but not cancel it completely. But I think this will be revealed, certainly for next week anyway. This will be decided quite shortly now, so we won't have much longer to wait. It'll either be tonight or tomorrow, I would have thought, where we have a final outcome for next week. So very shortly we will know, but for the time being, it's all up for grabs, and we'll keep you posted, of course. That's all for now then. Thanks for watching.